To remind myself about a certain passage I read a long time ago in Marcus Garvey's, you could say More Philosophies and Opinions, or you could even say Philosophies and Opinions, Volume 3. I think it's worth looking at, okay? It gave one of the best descriptions as to why a people should be, or how people are inherently religious. Uh, But then also, when I reread it, I'm like, wow, this guy is very against the atheist paradigm. And so, for that, I really want to explore it. But before we get started, I want to do two things. I want to first remind you that I'm part of a podcasting network, but I also want to remind you that I'm an author myself. So, let's go into that first, and then have at it.
Hello there, dear listener. We hope you're enjoying this lovely discussion. If you're not already aware, this show is part of a podcast network called KWAZ Radio, a Pan-African Nationalist and Garveyite network committed to showcasing the rich and varied thoughts of African people. We have an exciting lineup of shows that we think you'll enjoy, including
the Bitter Medicine Podcast.
I think black people acquired too much buy-in. Like, we constantly have to sell black people on things that are beneficial to black people.
The Pro-Black Perspective Podcast.
I'm fearful that our people are not really studying how to get ahead, and we're kind of, continually staying behind.
The Harsh Reality Podcast.
To me, it don't matter. I think people are so dumbed down, it wouldn't matter what you reveal to them. They still are in the matrix. They're in the simulation. They're going to keep doing what they did. They lemmings. So to me, it don't matter, man.
The Learning Curve Podcast.
Sexual access has never given you economic empowerment. The only person who has ever been economically empowered by a sexual relationship is the wasp and his woman.
The Cathedra Cheek Show.
When we start rising up to fight for our own, I guarantee you they'll stop doing what they're doing. I guarantee you they would have let their brother go. They was waiting to see what black folks was going to do.
Brother Bakari Podcast.
Black people love to claim folks that hate them, right? They're a slave master, and they are ashamed of who they really are.
The Forecast Radio.
Like, if you pray to the same deity as like your enemy, and that God blesses your enemy more than you may want to reconsider who you praying to,
And Tanzan, African Mind.
Africans generally are welcoming of everyone. Sometimes, to my consternation, I think that they should be less, welcoming.
If you love our podcast network, we would be grateful if you could rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on social media, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and check out our website at www.kwazradio.com for more information. Thank you for tuning in. And now, back to the program.
All right, so let's get into it. I want to first show you guys, this is last year's royalties from the books that I sell. They're not great. They are good. They're not great. So I appreciate everybody. We had a few ebooks sold with Uangalifu. I would say that's about 4 or 5, honestly. But pretty good, $27. We also had print royalties. Again, that could be, 10 books maybe. Book of Power was selling, which is good. I like the Book of Power. Not too many people got some of the other books, but this is pretty much it. This is the reality of how I want to optimally share information. And hopefully, next year looks a little better. But for now, it's not looking like it's going to be better, but just a reminder that it could look better. Regardless, let's get to the meat and potatoes of this podcast, and that is this speech of Marcus Garvey outlining discussion on formulating of plans to unify religious beliefs and practices of the entire Negro race. So that's a pretty big title. What I want to do is, I want to memorize, this is page 161. I want to go to the title page for you guys, just to show you what book I'm reading from. This is More Philosophies and Opinions of Marcus Garvey. This is volume 3, previously unpublished papers, edited by Amy Jacques Garvey, if you guys don't know, Marcus Garvey's wife, and E.U. Essane Udom, okay? So let's go to 161 and look at this speech. I really want you guys to get this one. So he says, look, this is a very important subject. And again, remember, he's going to start talking about atheism here. Now, if you guys want the PDF yourself, just click on the Discord below, okay? Click on the Discord and ask, hey, where's that book you were reading? And I'll show you a library of quite a number of books, okay? So if you're asking yourself, hey, why don't you just read it for me instead of commenting, you could read it yourself. I'm just gonna put it that way, like you can read it yourself. I give you the book, I give you the book to read for yourself, okay? So this is a very important subject. Most of our propagandists have really interpreted the organization chiefly in attacking the churches and religion as a whole. That's pretty interesting for him to say. So he says, the propagandists have said that his organization is attacking churches and religions as a whole. If there is anything I can say or the convention can do to lay out a set policy in this respect, the effort would be highly appreciated. So he says, look, this is what you have to understand about people, all right? Man is a religious being. That is to say, he must have some kind of a belief. Call it superstition or whatnot. Now look, this isn't true. Okay? This isn't true. And that's one of the issues. So I'll tell you guys this. I really don't like the African mysticism. I really don't like black mysticism. And unfortunately, I feel like if I were alive in the 1920s or what have you, and I were still, and I somehow had my level of consciousness back then, even though it's whatever, I might not have walked with Marcus Garvey. Like, I might not have. I mean, I think I would have, and I think I wouldn't have. I think there would be some sort of push and pull, because this was a really religious organization, and there's a lot of mysticism. Now, mysticism can be useful. Okay, mysticism can be useful, but I'm not really a mystic guy. So we got IC3 Reparation Nation in the building, Mr. Tekken himself. Thanks for coming through, brother. But yeah. And I'm just pulling the leg when I say I'm not, I'm joking about the Garvey. But I'm just messing. But Garvey. So man is a religious being. That is to say, he must have some kind of a belief. Okay. So, and that's another way to look at it, right? Do we have beliefs in things that we don't actually know? And this kind of comes back to the old argument. Hey, look, science is theory sometimes. Like, some science is theoretical, right? Theory sometimes means imaginary, right? Some science is not law, and one of the biggest ones that we all recognize is the theory of gravity, right? Now, the theory of gravity, there's a lot of evidence to show that gravity exists. A lot. Obviously. There's a lot of evidence that shows that there is a force called gravity in this universe. The reason why they call it a theory of gravity is because why is there gravity is not really clear. So if I'm not mistaken, like when it comes to magnetism, you could see what's at play. When it comes to electricity, you could see, what have you, right? Like, you could observe subatomic particles, if you will, right? Or atomic particles, you could observe electrons and protons and all that kind of stuff. When it comes to gravity, you don't observe that stuff. You get what I'm saying? That's why it's a theory, because you're saying, hey, look, this happens, that happens, but you don't see, let's say, gravitons. And that's why it's like, well, okay, you don't know. So in a sense, you could say there's a belief in gravity, You see what I'm saying? That there's a superstition in gravitons, right? But you really don't know. And I could mess with that. I could concede to that. Okay? So he goes on, he says, man who has started to think traces his origin beyond man. So again, and look, this is twofold. Okay? And again, like even if you go into the whole well, look, evolution shows it's clear that man, came from a prehistoric entity, right? Like a earlier hominid. I believe that. Okay, most people believe that, obviously, right? Venus Baptiste says gravity exists as a form of order. Yeah, and see, that's what I'm saying. Nobody, I think people know. That's what I'm saying. When it comes to the idea of belief, right? And you got to remember too, he's writing this in 1919. So what we know about gravity today might not have been a thing back then. Actually, I don't know what year. Yeah, actually 1929, I think this says. I'm not sure. So, yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I think Einstein is around, like maybe he did release a paper on gravity at this point. But again, relativity doesn't explain gravitons, right? So the idea of gravitons is not really there. So, especially back then, you would say, well, I don't know, right? But even today, you still don't know, right? And the same with, humans as a people. Some people, now the scientific community, let's say, believes that humans come from earlier hominids. And I agree with that. Okay, I agree that humans do come from earlier hominids, who come from earlier hominids, who come from earlier forms of, let's say, apes, in a sense, right? But other humans believe that humans kind of appeared spontaneously, let's say, by some supernatural being that created humans. Okay? And it doesn't even have to be like a supernatural being, because some people would even say, this God isn't a supernatural being, it's just a natural being. Either way, right, the idea is that some sort of higher intelligence, if you will, or some sort of intelligence, period, created human beings, possibly out of nothing. Like nothing, that they're derivative of nothing. Again, that's another belief. The thing is this, neither view really has definitive evidence, per se. Now, obviously, the one with more evidence is the, evolution, the idea of evolution. That one has more evidence, but, without a smoking gun, and I'm not saying it doesn't have a smoking gun, because obviously you can look at different earlier hominids as they gradually develop into what we know as humans. And obviously that's a better thesis than they just kind of magically appeared. Right? But regardless, it goes without saying that this isn't necessarily untrue, right? Man has started to think traces his origin beyond man. So that could be the man before man, i.e. the earlier hominids, or, you could say it's a deity. Now, obviously, I don't think it's a deity, but like when you're looking at things, you don't have to just force your viewpoint. You can look at things from multiple angles, and if your viewpoint is correct, it can stand up to other viewpoints. So that's really what I'm saying. So he says, look, and as such has been groping in the dark to find out the source from whence he came. And by our own intuition, we have attributed that source to something beyond us. And in so believing, we accept the idea of a religion. So, this is where we kind of get away from the what could be valid, like a valid scientific question, i.e., where does man come from? Right? And then we go into the realm of, well, let's just make up stories. Right? So he says, some make our God the God of fire. right? So the God of fire made humans, let's say. Some make our God the God of water. The God of water made humans. Some make our God the God of the elements, right? You know, Aang from Avatar made it. I'm joking. But no, speaking of this, you know, I think it was the Kenyan belief. They do think that human beings come from like some dark liquid, you know? So again, like, this is a real thing. People do things. And he says, others of us accept the Christian belief, okay? So man's religion is something that we cannot eliminate from his system or destroy in him. And I think that's a very important observation, right? Now, I don't believe this is true. The reason why I don't believe this is true is because, obviously, in order for Marcus Garvey to be a Christian, and Marcus Garvey seems like a Christian, you know, most observers will see him as a Christian. For Marcus Garvey to be a Christian, somebody had to destroy whatever his ancestor or his ancestor's ancestor or his ancestor, some ancestor in his line had to, like, basically some ancestor in his line wasn't a Christian. And so the challenge of you can't eliminate from a man his religion is not true. Now, it's possible that an individual man can't lose his religion, but you can always teach his son and his daughters. You can always teach his sons and his daughters, and in so doing, essentially destroy, you know, the religion in the long term. And that might be another poignant observation. Like, because I mean, for me, for instance, it would be very, very difficult for me to start believing in a God of water, a God of fire, a God of the elements, a Christian God. It'd be very, very difficult for me to do that. But obviously, if you took my son and just trained him on religion, on the God of water, he might believe in the God of water. You know? And then, you know, whatever, how many years down the line, none of my descendants will believe in what I believe in, right? So it is a possibility that, you know, instead of trying to convince people, and that's the argument that Garvey's going to make, and I think we probably should pay a lot of attention to that, right? But he says, it is folly for any man to go about attacking another man's religion, because to him it is fundamental, right? So you don't, you know, that's really important. This is really, really critical, right? You may be a Christian, you may be a Mohammedan. That is your religion. We are all entitled to our religious beliefs. Some of us are Catholics. Now again, this belief right here, we are all entitled to our religious beliefs. This is actually a modern Western concept. Okay? This is actually a modern Western concept. And it's not really intrinsic or inherent to the human condition that you are entitled to a religious belief. You know? It just so happens that, well, for the most part, it just so happens that America became a dominant power, right? So before America was a dominant power, most countries, some people would argue, were kind of mono-religious states. And they had state religions. And you weren't really entitled to a foreign belief. Now, not to say that there weren't countries with foreign believers, right? But, like, again, usually you would try to go for a mono-religious state. So, America kind of was an exception for its own historic reasons, i.e. it had 50 states or so many colonies with their own separate religions, and they tried to form a union among those separate Christian denominations. And therefore, they created that sort of that scene. But realistically, it is this statement here is kind of a recent development, right? IC3 Revelations says sometimes trauma makes people have faith in a God. Yes. Yeah. I mean, I would say there's trauma. I say trauma. I also say, like, sometimes it's just ignorance. You know, like or even this, I'll say it this way. I used to believe in some sort of mysticism too. Okay? Somebody would, like, I used to believe in, like, let's say one of those ideas that it's a mystic belief. It's, just a belief that you have no real rationale for. And it's all over Western media. And it's this idea of soulmates, right? Oh, there's this person out there. I don't know them. They don't know me. But we are destined to be together. We are predetermined to be together. And if I live my life and they live their life, eventually we'll come together and we'll have the best union of our lives. Like, I used to believe that too. And the trouble is this: when you believe in irrational, mystic things, people can manipulate you. So it's a tool of manipulation. And so it's like, even like I think I like what IC3 says about trauma. A lot of people who are traumatized are very vulnerable to being further manipulated. Okay? Like, a lot of times they would let down their guard. A lot of times they will misjudge something. So like, if I go through something tragic, like for instance, if my house is on fire, right? And I escape because somebody picks me up, like takes me out, saves me, right? Or saves my stuff, all of a sudden I'm a little bit more receptive to this individual who did that, right? But if they have some ill intentions of me, right? I would be less cautious. You know what I mean? I would be less cautious. To say it lightly. So, like, yeah, absolutely. You would, because again, when we talk about gravity, now gravity, again, you don't have any evidence of gravitons. I mean, you don't have any, like, you can't see gravitons, put it that way. You at least have evidence that it's doing something, right? But when it comes to this God, you don't have evidence that there is any entity that's outside of the human species that's manipulating humans behind the scene or doing anything of the sort. Like, you have no evidence that there's just some being just created everybody, from day one. Now, Garvey will tell you that, oh yeah, man was created by God. Okay? Man was created by a God. But you really have no evidence to this. Now, you could say, just like the graviton, hey, look, I see what gravitons are doing, even if I don't see gravitons. Right? Like, I see what this God is doing. Like, I see what this God has done, even if I haven't seen this God. And that is a decent argument. Okay? That is a decent argument. But again, this is why people don't say the law of gravity. They say, the theory of gravity. Okay? And it kind of says, you know what? Gravity, or our theory of gravity, is our imagination. Okay? But it's probably not how it is. If you will. Like you're not so definitive that you would say it's a law. You would say, yes, this is how it appears that gravity works, but outside of seeing the planets circulate the sun or revolve around the sun or the moon revolve around the earth or just things dropping, like the fact that you can't see gravitons is a pretty damning thing for the science. So he says, some of us are Catholics, some of us are Presbyterians, some of us are Baptists, and we deem it a right to adhere to our particular belief. Now again, remember, there are no rights in this world. That's the thing that people don't understand. Now, I don't want to badger everything, okay? I don't want to be the person who's looking at the finger when they're pointing at something. But I do want us as a people to also understand, hey, look, I want people to also understand, hey, look, I shouldn't be of the idea that I'm entitled to anything, and I shouldn't be of the idea that I have any rights. Right? Everything that you want or have, right, you must earn in your own way. Okay? You must earn it over other people, in a sense. You know? Like, or even put it this way, everything that you want, you should be able to defend. Okay? And I mean, it's not really practical. You live in a society, but at the same time, understand that that is what it's going. Like you might run into a situation where somebody just takes something from you, and if you don't try to retrieve it, you won't retrieve it. And that's how life is. Like real world is not that you have a right to adhere to any particular belief. Real world is not that you are entitled to your own nothing. Real world is, as they say, might makes right. That's the real world. So like, yeah, if you're in the Yoruba community, you have to do the Yoruba things. And you could say, well, no, I'd rather be the Igbo. Well, okay, you're Yoruba now. Right? So it says, therefore, any man who goes out and attacks religion, thinking he can convert men to the organization, by so doing, is not helping the organization. So, I'm guessing, based off of this, he says there are probably some members of Marcus Garvey's organization. And remember that they could have even been agents, but they might not have been agents, right? But he says there are members of the organization who are attacking churches and religion as a whole. And he's like, look, if you're a person who's attacking religion, thinking you can convert people to the organization, you are not helping the organization. He is doing more harm than good. We have reached a point where it is to accomplish, where if we are to accomplish anything, whatever, we should be in unison and accord. We have only to look at other races, and this is where it's important. We find that the majority stand together in one religious belief. And so, and again, remember, with the exception of America, most other nations, particularly during America's founding, were pretty mono-religious. So a lot of the states were kind of founded by religious groups. Okay? The Calvinists in one area, the so and so for another area. And so England was a Protestant state. And the majority stood together in Protestantism, right? You have Italy might have been a Catholic state, and the majority stood together in Catholicism. Okay? That's what you have. And then, of course, you have Africa that was very, very divided on a quote-unquote religious tip. Okay? Where most people were of some sort of unique denomination based off of their particular lineage. Okay? Now, they did stand together in that one belief, but of course, if you look at Africa, but the thing with Africa, in fact, I'll say it this way. The thing that Europe did that Africa didn't, and Africa continues not to do, kind of, to some extent, is it didn't protect its borders. Okay? Europe, if you want to go from, you want to go from Germany to France, there is some sort of border agreement, right? And I'm not going to say that Africa didn't have those kind of borders, but you know what I mean? I mean, it could be propaganda from the West, but I can't even think of a sort of border enforcement situation. Maybe if you had one unique kraal or something, one unique village, maybe. But if you're talking about, hey, look, this plot of land is mine, from here to here, from this river end to that river end, I don't even eventually, you could say, it's a little bit difficult. It's a little bit difficult to say one way or the other. Because even if I'm thinking, Nzinga did carve out a nation, right? But the question becomes, well, did she have border patrols? Did she have like border check-ins? You know, that's the big question, because it kind of seems like people just walked around in Africa pretty freely, which, you know, does sound good on paper, but like, yeah, if you're talking about a nation, like getting shit done, you might not necessarily get shit done that way. But anyway, let's keep going. It says, we have found men of the white world in the Caucasian world standing together in one belief. We have found men of the brown world standing together in one belief. The yellow people having their singular belief in that respect, and this singular belief has kept them together and has strengthened them. It has been this rallying faith that has preserved them in their political sphere. And if we could arrive at an understanding whereby instead of attacking the religious section of our community, since man is a religious being, we go out and try to induce our hearers to let us be of one faith, of one belief, of one understanding. I believe in so doing we may accomplish something. So again, he wants to bring us all into one faith, one belief, one understanding, right? And I think, you know, in retrospect, as an author myself, right? I think in retrospect, this is putting the cart before the horse. I think having a culture, a unifying culture is important, but more important is to have a unifying economy. Okay? And if you don't do the unifying economy, you might not be able to do the unifying culture. And I think this is one of the issues that we have in the quote-unquote Pan-African community or the African nationalist community or the Black nationalists, whatever you want to call it. We're putting the cart before the horse. Okay? Because if you really are serious in looking at, well, what about China? What about, you know, the yellow people? What about the brown people? Which might mean India, might mean the Mexicans, I don't know, right? What about the white people? The white people, right, stood together in economics. Okay? They actually didn't even have the same religion. They had the same economy. Okay? And that's why they're so united. And what they were united with when it came to being against us, you know, we say, well, they were united against our culture. No, they were united against our economy. For their economy. You know, and if as soon as you understand what their economy was, or they were united in our position in their economy. You see what I'm saying? As soon as you understand that, it becomes a little bit more clear that, oh, okay, maybe we are putting the cart before the horse. Because you could say, hey, look, I want you to believe in the same thing that I do. Okay, now I believe in the same thing that you do. What about it? What is that going to change? Do I own the land under my feet? Right? Am I collecting the wealth of the world? Now, when you are collecting the wealth of the world, right? When you are providing for your people, then they could say, hey, what do we believe in? You know what I mean? That's a big difference. It's like even like this. I'll put it this way, in fact. What does it take? What does it take to teach a child? What does it take to teach a child? You will say to teach a child, you know, besides from being a parent or whatever, right? But even that, anything, in fact. But if to teach a child, it will take a school. Let's put it that way, right? In order to take a school. So what does it take to make a school? Does it take, if you have a good head on your shoulders, is that enough to build a school anywhere on this planet? No. If you want to build a school, you must have extra building. And you must have extra instructors. And the way to have an extra building and extra instructors is technically an economic affair. And now you might say, well, look, you could also teach a child by, like homeschool or when you're having your child with you. But you have to say to yourself now, okay, how do I feed a child? Like, what does it take to get food? Now, only if you already have the land, and again, that's your economy. If your economy is already set up such that you have land and all that already going for you, then obviously you already have step one. You have an economy. But if you don't already have land, you're going to need to exchange labor or sell products in order to have money in order to feed that child. Because if you cannot feed that child, you will not be able to teach that child. Because either that child will starve, right, which is the worst case scenario, or the other case scenario is that that child is going to leave your home and go look for food. And they're going to go to whoever can feed them, which is sometimes the church. Okay? So it's the yellow people have, so everybody you have to come together economically. That's what I would say. So I would partly say this was a little bit putting the cart before the horse, but I understand what he's going at. So he says, it has been this rallying faith that has preserved them in their political sphere. And if we could arrive at an understanding where instead of attacking the religious section of our community, since man's a religious being, we go out and try to induce our hearers to let us be of one faith, one belief, one understanding. I believe in so doing we may accomplish something. Instead of denouncing religion, we should recognize it, treat it sympathetically. Instead of attacking the churches of the preachers, we should diplomatically get around them and get them to see the virtues of the organization so that they may fall in line and preach the doctrine of the United Negro Appropriate Association to their followers. So he wanted to convert the churches towards preachers of the doctrine of the UNIA. This man was a strategist. Very, very brilliant. By so doing, we'll be harnessing the strongest element on the outside, and in the space of a few years, we may have a Negro idealism of our own, or any kind of religion that will make us strong in our faith. I don't think that anyone who gets up to attack religion will get the sympathy of this House, for the United Negro Appropriate Association is fundamentally a religious institution. Okay? So, universal, and that's an important point. Okay? He's saying this organization, the UNIA, is fundamentally a religious institution. Okay? It's fundamentally dealing with the mysticism of the world. And you kind of see it. When you say, look, Africa will rise because blah, 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 right? That's all good. I like it. You like it. We all like it. It's mysticism. Okay? Again, if you want Africa to rise, you have to first look at Africa as an economic unit. Look at things from a materialist perspective. Not a mysticist perspective, not a spiritualist perspective, from a materialist perspective. The mysticism is all well and good after you've established the materialism. When you look at China, you look at India, you look at Europe, these are all economic units. Europe is a continent, obviously, but like England, France, these are all economies. Their politicians are ruling over the economy. When you talk about, hey, look, we're going to collect taxes. We're going to tax this import, but we're not going to tax this import. We're going to tax this export, but we're not going to tax this export. Those are all economic questions, and those are the questions that their quote-unquote kings dealt with. Now, you ask yourself, especially if you're an African American in 1929, you ask yourself, what are the big economic policies that you're going through? Like, where is your king to decide the cost of imports and exports in your community? You understand? That's where you run into a problem. Because another people are deciding the imports and exports. One of the things I like to think about, in fact, is, we talk about the coons in Africa, right? We say to ourselves, okay, Well, look, there are some people who. Here's the big question: How many? How many iPhones are there in Tanzania? Right? And that's a materialist question. Now you can go by your imagination and say, well, there are, as many as there are buyers. No, there are a finite number of iPhones in Tanzania based off of how many iPhones are imported into Tanzania. Based off of a contract that Tanzania may have with Apple or the United States or wherever. That is the reality of the world, that there is a finite number of resources, a finite number of products, a finite number of materials, a finite number of workers. There's everything is finite. Everything is finite. That's what materialism means. Everything is finite. But sorry, I didn't realize I had more comments. So I have to go back. We have Venus Baptiste says religion is man-made. So for some reason I didn't have all messages on, so I apologize for that. But religion is man-made, exactly. A religion is absolutely man-made. Most of everything is imaginary. The only question is this. So imaginary doesn't mean something is bad. The only question is how useful is this imaginary? How useful is this imagination? You understand? How useful is this imagination? That's the only thing that really, that's the only real question. So IC3 says logical Africans can never defeat white supremacy with facts. Why? Because facts are founded on faith and belief. So that's a pretty interesting idea. A really pretty interesting sentence, because there's this guy, I can't remember his name, some white person. I think I could remember his name. Shoot. But what he says, all well-founded beliefs are founded on things that aren't well-founded. You know what I mean? Like it's something silly like that. But like maybe like Schopenhauer or something like that. I don't know. Schopenhauer maybe. I don't know. But somebody can look it up later. But the idea is that I'm not going to say that logic. I won't say that per se. But what I would say is that a lot of times you will have quote unquote facts that are founded on belief. Quote unquote facts that are not facts. Like I said, if I told you gravitons, the reason why my phone fell on the floor is because of these gravitons pulling my phone into the floor. Like that's I don't know. You know what I mean? Like it's better for me to say I don't know. It's just better for me to say I don't know. Because it's just like obviously, you can say gravity, sure, but do you know? You don't, right? So he says, I have been a Baptist all my life. I've been a Catholic all my life, and my fathers before me have been Baptists or Catholics all their lives, and they found no fault with their religion. So again, you remember, his people were converted. Remember, Catholicism and baptism comes out of, if I'm not mistaken, England. I don't remember, but it might have been England. I think it was Martin Luther. And Catholicism comes out of Italy, Rome. That's what it is. So, his fathers, like at some point they lost their religion. And their whole line was eventually converted to the beliefs that the Europeans invented in Rome or England. And that's just what it is. So he says did I say Baptism? Well, Protestantism. I don't know where the Baptists come from. They could be, I don't know because this guy's Jamaican. I don't know where baptism comes from, or the Baptists come from. But that's just it's just him being a Baptist or Catholic kind of just reinforces the idea that you can lose your religion, and the fact that he finds no fault with their religion is just a quirk of his. He says, it is useless if somebody gets up with some new thoughts endeavoring to tell me there is no God. No need to belong to any church and expect me all of a sudden to give up all the beliefs of my fathers and follow him when he is not a God, when he cannot perform miracles. So again, when you believe in magic and mysticism, you believe that there were miracles in this world. right? And again, it's because of that you can be manipulated. You see what I'm saying? So Marcus Garvey is buried by the Catholic Church, right? TIL, today I learned, right? But yeah, he's saying, look, I'm going to belong to this church. I'm going to belong to the Catholic faith, right? I'm going to live and die a Catholic, and she sure enough did die a Catholic, right? Because I believe that there were miracles. I believe in magic. He says, I would change my faith with a man who tells me can do as much as God has done for me. He's like, so again, there's no evidence that there is this entity that's performing miracles and what have you. There's no evidence that this entity is doing this. But he's saying, look, you can't challenge my faith unless you can do what this entity I made up has done. You know? And so you get into a position where, okay, you could see why or how white people tricked a lot of our ancestors. Because somehow they convinced some of our ancestors to tell, that there were miracles performed, and then we repeated that to our children, repeated that to our children, repeated that to their children, until now they're so firmly believing it, this is Marcus Garvey, so firmly believing in these miracles that they're like, well, can you perform these miracles? So he says, look, when we understand that God created the stars that shine in the heavens, right? So again, you have to understand that this God created the stars that shine in the heavens. And of course, you have no evidence of that either. So a lot of it is just kind of like, oh, I have no evidence, but this is what it is, right? Because God created the stars that shine in the heaven. When we understand that God gives life and takes it, that God created all the planets, of which our planet forms a part, except there is somebody who is going to prevent the stars from shining, who is going to direct the course of the sun, who can command the waves of the sea, who can raise the dead and make him live again. Unless there is such a person, I will not cease paying tribute to God and to Christ, his son. Okay? So he's like, look, he's like, I think there was this God who created the stars. Okay? They can give life and take life. They can create planets. And unless you as an individual can prevent the stars from shining or direct the courses of the sun, change where the sun is going, or command the waves of the sea, or can raise the dead, unless you can do these things, I don't want to hear from you. Right? But here's the thing too, it's like this. You could say this God, because this is the one this is like a clear logical problem. You can say this God did all this stuff. Fine. And can this God do all these other stuff that you say that another man can't? Can a God prevent the stars from shining? Can they change the course of the sun? Can they command the waves of the sea? Can they raise the dead? Right? So he says, look, you cannot move me to be an atheist. You cannot make me differ from the faith I have inherited from my fathers. You have no right to make me an atheist. Now again, back with the rights. Anyway, or prevent me from following the religion of my fathers. And again, remember, this is not your father's religion. It's not. It's just, it's not your, how you say, birthright. Put it that way. Okay? So he says, we are safe in following the religions of our fathers because if we err, the fault will not be ours. Now that's kind of ignorant, but even so. Because if there is a God and he is just, he will not blame me for being a Catholic if my fathers taught me that. We should believe fundamentally that there is a God. So he just puts it out. We should believe that there is a God. And we should worship him in spirit and in truth. But we can worship him on the same lines as the Jews do and as the Christians do. That is unifying our spiritual belief. Having a unified understanding in everything we do. So, you should worship the same as your brother, right? And again, technically, like you should have the same beliefs as your brother. Technically, that's not bad. It's only that you have to say to yourself, like again, because I remember this, everything, almost like half of our lives is imaginary. Let's put it that way, right? A lot of the stuff that we do is imaginary. Like for instance, I'm sitting here talking to a microphone, reading a book, and I imagine my voice is reaching someone or will reach someone down the lines. It's not necessarily reality. Okay, like I imagine, let's say tomorrow or the day after, that someone's going to listen to this and so on and so forth. That's just my imagination. You know what I mean? It's just my imagination. And it's okay to have an imagination. It's okay to have an active imagination if it moves you towards doing things that can impact reality in a good way, right? So, for instance, my imagination tells me, read this book, share it with somebody, and in so doing, there's greater understanding of the world, right? And so, whether that's real or not, that's fine. Imagination trumps out. But the thing is this, when you believe that there's this supernatural being that created the stars, that might not be that great. I told you guys, once upon a time I was an astrophysicist, right? And my astronomical assignment was to find out how stars were created. Okay, so I don't remember the terminology, but I had to find, I basically had to do some calculus and find some, I don't remember what it's called, but like some asymptote. Basically, when you work out the formula for the hydrodynamics, you would find that at some points there's a denominator with a bunch of variables, and the question was, like let's say the equation for the density of gases, if you will, right? The density of, remember, it's hydrodynamics, but at a large scale, galaxies move like liquids, okay? So, just the same as if you go on a small scale, liquids are these finite particles. You know what I mean? They're not really connected. And so in the same way, galaxies are not connected, but on the grand scheme of things, they're moving like a liquid. So you use hydrodynamic equations to so on and so forth. So basically, you would do the equation, you would find the density equation, and then from the density equation, you could modify the input, if you will, or you could look at the variables and decide, okay, this is when this density would be higher. Or, more importantly, this is when this density the denominator of this density expression will be 0 or approach 0, right? And so as the denominator is approaching 0 for whatever conditions, that's where you would suspect that stars were created. So the reason why I point that out is because, the reason why it's such a formative part of my life, really. But the reason why I point that out is to say, you can't just go around thinking that some God created these freaking stars, because you're not going to start exploring the mathematics of how stars were created. And here's the thing, there's the bigger thing, and kind of why I'm a little bit ashamed of not finishing my PhD, right? But the biggest thing is this, that nobody's answered the question. Nobody knows how stars are formed. And I would have, if I didn't fall into the Pan-Africanism, if you will, which is kind of like why I'm a little bit upset with this movement, right? But if I didn't fall into the Pan-Africanism, I might have been the guy who solved it. Like, you might have been reading about me in another light, and say, oh, whoa, yeah, you heard of Oni? Oh, yeah, Oni solved the question of, you would have put me on a Black Excellence for like, a month, and then, forgotten about me and checked back on me and, in a decade and be like, oh, I heard of that guy, and he hasn't done anything since. But that's pretty much of course now I don't have that I heard of that guy, but it is what it is. I don't have my month of fame yet, but it is what it is. But yeah, like you don't want to think that some God created the stars. You want to look at the stars as the galaxies as a hydrodynamic equation. You don't want to think that there's a God that's giving lives and taking lives. You want to think, oh yeah, there are telomeres in your body, in your DNA, if you will, and it's the lack of their repairing over time that makes you age and eventually die. Okay, you want to have a material, you don't want to say God gives life. You want to say, oh yes, sperm and eggs come together to conceive a human being, right? You don't want to say God's created the planets. No, you want to say planets are interstellar, are gases and I don't remember the word for it, but like hydrogen, helium, those things, chemicals, if you will, coming together into solid masses rotating around a stellar body. That's what you want. You don't want to think like if you start with this, oh yeah, and then of course the raise the dead stuff and commanding the waves of the sea. You don't want commanding the waves of the sea, or the course of the sun. There's no course to the sun. The sun is for all intents and purposes staying still. I mean, it is moving, obviously, but for all intents and purposes, it's staying still, and the Earth is moving. So there's no course of the sun. It's simple that the Earth is rotating around the sun, and the stars don't stop shining because the stars, the stars don't shine because of anybody's command on the planet Earth. That's it's dumb. No disrespect, and raise the dead. There's no such thing. You don't want to believe in these things, that's one of the problems, because you want our people to be a scientific people, okay? And one of the impediments towards a people being scientific is them kind of thinking they already know the answer to scientific questions without science. Okay, and that's where it becomes a little bit, okay, I do agree that we should have the same beliefs, but we shouldn't believe in things that are extra scientific. Okay? We shouldn't believe in things that are outside of a scientific discipline. So he says that is unifying our spiritual belief. Having a unified understanding is everything we do. Now, I think if we endeavor to do this, we must eventually benefit morally, politically, and otherwise. The universal Negro information has struck the right chord. So again, he's putting the cart before the horse. You want to have the economy first. This is why I say, you don't want to jump into the bigger belief. You want to jump into, what is our economic structure? Right? Can you just take anything? When you look at, I really, maybe I'll show you guys some of my latest book. But one of the passages I went into was the Ma'at phrases, right? So the Ma'at, the 42 negative confessions of Ma'at type thing, right? And one of them goes into this idea that you should not block the river or something like that. You should not block this river that was designated by the gods, if you will. Or you should not block this dam that was designated by the gods. Whatever, right? What that means is this. Humans are technically free to do anything. Right? Technically free to do anything. However, if you just do anything, you might be met with some consequences. And your beliefs should be not doing things that will meet with negative consequences based off of the power of the state. And so the state says, hey, look, there's this mystic reason why you shouldn't go to this park and hunt these animals, right? But it's just cap. And that's okay. Because if the state can use a certain dam, then it can, do hydroelectricity without you messing with it. If your whole reason why you're not, because otherwise you'll just say, why can't I use this river? The river is mine too. Why can't I use this dam? This dam is mine too, and I don't want this hydroelectric dam in front of it. You know? And that's very important. So he says, look, the world is no different. The world is in no different mood today than when it enslaved the very first black man. It is only a question of power. This is what it is. This is life. It is only a question of power and being too weak that decides the issue. If you are weak, men will enslave you. Men will prey upon you. If you are strong, men will respect you and allow you to attend to your business. Shout out to Buana. Yesterday he gave us a phrase from I think he said Bahamas, like a belief in the Bahamas, where he was comparing them to Nigeria, and he said the Nigerians, they believe that humility is weakness. And in the Bahamas, he says what they say is when you see a donkey, you ride it. Okay, like basically, if a man is a donkey, if he acts like a donkey, then other men will ride him. Pause. Right, but the whole thing is that it's the same as what Garvey is saying. If you are weak, men will enslave you. And this is what I say. It's like you can't go by the belief, oh yeah, well, God made me weak, or God made me this, or God. No. If you are weak, men will enslave you. Men will prey on you. Men are still preying on you. Even if you're strong, men are preying on you. Okay? Even if you're strong, men are preying on you. It says, if you are strong, men will respect you and allow you to attend to your business. Now again, that's not the case. The case is this: even if you are strong, men don't respect you. They are preying on you too. They are waiting for you to fail. Okay? They are waiting for you to fall down. Look at my brother in Burkina Faso. Okay? Look at my brother in Burkina Faso. He's strong. Good looking, strong, fit, intelligent, all that kind of stuff. How many men are sitting around trying to make him fail, waiting for him to fail? Not just white men either. This is the reality of the world. Even if nobody respects you. Nobody will respect you. All people know is that if you, regardless, you are prey. Okay? You are prey. But even if you're prey, no one's going to hunt you until you show weakness. Until you get weak. As long as you are strong, you might not be the first one hunted. But that's all it is. It's like think about the lions. The lion is very, very, very strong. Do not fight a lion hand to hand. Okay? Do not do it. You will die. New Barian says, why complain? Why complain? Right? But lions are very strong. Okay? That said, you look how the lions live. Lion, you have your pride as a lion, right? You have maybe 20 women to yourself. You're living good. The lions outside of your pride are waiting for you to slip up, waiting for you to slow down. It's not a question of you might be hunting every other animal on the planet, right? Or the hyenas are you might keep the hyenas at bay. The other lions are looking at you. That's how man really lives. Okay? That's how man really lives. By the way, Nubarian, you try to explain to me what you mean by why you complain. I appreciate your comment. I appreciate everybody, in fact. I appreciate IC3, Venus, and Nubarian. I appreciate all of you. But yeah, so he says, look, so don't even think that people will respect you. I think that's a misnomer, right? People will still want you to fail. Because why would anybody not want you to fail? The world is finite. It's like Apple. Apple and Microsoft, right? Bill Gates and Steve Jobs. You think Bill Gates doesn't want Steve Jobs to fail? Like, sure, Steve Jobs dies, and then Bill Gates is like, oh my gosh, we lost a guy. But he's really like, let me moving on his company. Let me moving on his technology. You know? You don't put up, these companies these companies have massive cybersecurity networks. Massive cybersecurity networks. That's because even though they're strong, they understand that they're still prey. They understand that other people will still try to enslave them or steal from them or harm them or do them an injustice. They still understand that. Being strong does not mean people will respect you. Okay? It does not mean that at all. Being strong kind of makes you a bigger target. When we talk about eat the rich, what are we talking about? What are we saying? We're saying you got money, and that's what happened to me recently. I mean, I shouldn't really talk about it, but somebody asked me to borrow some money, and when people do, when they want to borrow money from you, they tell you, man, I'll pay you back right away, blah, blah, blah. And when they get the money, they're like, why I got to pay you back? You got money. Why I got to pay you back? This other person didn't pay you back. You know what I'm saying? Because when you are strong, right? You're only less vulnerable if you understand that you're more targeted and you build up your defense. Okay? So Nubarian says circumstances mean nothing, only state of mind. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Circumstances mean nothing. It's only your state of mind. As I say, if you don't have a right state of mind, right? Like I said, if you're rich and you don't understand that people around you are going to prey on you even more so, you might end up damn poor. That's what happened to me. I'm not poor right now, but what I'm saying is that people here in the continent, man, they be asking me for money. Okay, they be asking me for money. And they be giving me all sorts of sweet promises. Oh man, I'll get you back. Oh man, this business is gonna, and they can't do that shit. That's why I don't. You gotta understand. You gotta look out for you. If you don't look out for you, you're screwed. And if you're weak and you don't look out for you, that's better than if you're strong and you don't look out for you. Okay, and by strong I mean rich, and weak I mean poor. But there is also, strength and weakness as well. Negroes get strength, get power, get it anyhow, but get it. Because if you have not gotten strength, they shall make you a prey. And again, they're still going to make you a prey if you get strength. Men shall take away from you all your rights, all your privileges, and close the door of opportunity in your face. Now remember, there are no such thing as rights. Okay? It's not that they're taking away your rights, your privileges, and your door and opportunity. You don't have rights. You have privileges, but they don't have to. Nobody has to respect that. And you have opportunities, but nobody has to respect that. You got to remember, nobody has to respect you. You know what I mean? I'm not saying people shouldn't respect you, but no one has to. It's like for instance, I have this beautiful wife, okay? And recently I decided, look, I want to start a restaurant. Now, of course, I can't do a restaurant in Tanzania. So, sorry, it's not that I want to do a restaurant. She wants to do a restaurant. So, of course, I'm like, yeah, sure, go do a restaurant. I'll put the capital up. You get a restaurant from that, right? Here's the thing. A man sees my wife and her big Tanzanite ring, okay? He doesn't have to respect me. He doesn't have to say, oh, this is a married woman, I'll leave her alone. Of course, I would appreciate if he did do that. But he doesn't have to. Now, granted, if I can exact some consequences on him, he might think twice about doing that. But if I can't do any consequences, right? That's what it is. Now, of course, fortunate for me, you know, obviously my wife might have some consequences for that, right? If she lives with me and then, you know, I happen to detect, you know, something ain't right, you know, she might not live with me, obviously, right? But the thing is this: if you look at the Western world, there's a lot of men and women who step out of their marriages, right? And they're not detected. I'm telling you the truth, and you know it. So he says, close the door of opportunity in your face. But again, there's no such thing as privileges, no such thing as rights, no such thing as opportunity. You know, it's all go back to Boondocks, if you will, but it's all allowance. It's other people allowing you to do things. You know what I mean? It's other people allowing you to do things. Like for instance, I'm here in Tanzania. They said I can't work. I can't work while I'm here. Now, unfortunately, I don't sell enough books to say, well, fuck you, I'm just gonna sell books. You know, I showed you guys this. This is my table, $300 for the year. Okay, $300 for the year is not enough. Apparently, I have 15 books. I had no idea, but $300 for the year is not enough. But that's the reality, right? So I can't work while I'm in Tanzania. That's the reality. There's no right to labor. There's no privilege of having a job. There's no opportunity to work. If I start working, they deport me or they fine me. You know, when I was crossing the border into this country, they were telling me, hey, look, if you had overstayed your visa, we would have charged you, let's say, $2,000 US. Okay? If you had overstayed your visa even by a second, we would have charged you $2,000 US. And if you couldn't afford that, we would deport you. Okay? Maybe cause some trouble with the embassy. Basically, long story short, you now I gotta remember myself when my visa expired. But that's the reality. So he says, close the door of opportunity in your face. So he says, they do it in America, in all parts of the world, especially in Mother Africa. And they shall never open this door until you rise in your power and demand that they open or break it down by your organized power, courage, or prowess. Now again, I don't want you to think that this is true. Okay? But hold on a second. I see my brother Buana is here. He says, what's the name of the book you are reading, Kingston Boy? Who the fuck call me boy, man? What the fuck? All right. Anyway, I shouldn't even answer that, right? But I'll just entertain this brother. This is More Philosophies and Opinions by Marcus Garvey, Volume 3, previously unpublished papers, edited by Amy Jacques Garvey, and so on and so forth. Imagine somebody calling a grown damn man a boy. That's crazy, man. Times is changing. But yeah. So by the way, we almost finished. So he says, look, they do it in America in all parts. So he says, men should take away. He says, and they do this in Africa. That's what I'm saying. Even if you're in Africa, especially during Garvey's time, they could take away. They could take away. Again, there's no such thing as rights. But like I said, even I don't have the right to work here. Okay. Even I don't have the right to work here. So Nubarian says, so in Zambia, they don't let black foreigners work jobs, and you must have a business to live there. Yeah, exactly. And that's because here's the thing, even in America, you can't just get a job. The reason why we have jobs in America is because we have work permits. This is why I used to say, I don't do this angle, but I used to understand the angle when people said that we ain't free. Because you really do need a permit for everything in America too. If you want to get married, you need a marriage permit. If you want to drive, a marriage license or a marriage permit. If you want to drive, you need a driving permit or a driving license. Or if you want to fish, you need a fishing license or a fishing permit. Okay? And the thing is this, that's not unique to America. This is why I don't say, oh, you ain't free. That's just how the world is. You can't just go places and do shit. You need permission. You need a license from somebody else who's giving out permission. Like, states are in control. Right? So when I was, 16 or 15 or whatever, I did sign up for a worker's permit in America in order that I could go get a job in America. And the reality is this, that's because I was a U.S. citizen. If I were not a U.S. citizen, I could not get that permit unless I paid for it. Just like inside of Tanzania, I can't get a worker's permit unless I put down, I can't remember, but it could be $4,000 US. Now, obviously, some people think I got it, but you see how much my book sold. This is my book sales, $300. I don't got no $4,000 US sitting around. Okay? I'm not saying I don't got $4,000 US, but I don't got $4,000 US to get no damn job. That's for damn sure. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't got $4,000 damn dollars to get a damn US job. So a damn job in Tanzania where they paying $2 and $2 a day. I ain't finna do that. So anyway, my point is, like, it don't make no damn sense. But my point is, you need a permit everywhere. So it's like you don't have rights. You are just citizens. You just have citizenship. And they can take that citizenship whenever they want. And the thing is the reason why I don't have this shit in Tanzania is because I don't have citizenship in Tanzania. That's all it is. Oh, so the Baron just asked me, am I a citizen there? No, I'm not a citizen. You can't get citizenship unless you live here for 10 years straight. Pretty much. You know what I mean? Unless you live here for a decade, you can't get citizenship. Now, a woman, she can marry a citizen and get citizenship. But here's the thing about this country. You can't get dual citizenship. So you can't be an American citizen and a Tanzanian citizen. Now, I could get Jamaican citizenship, dual citizenship, because my father was Jamaican, and my mother was Jamaican too. But my whole thing is that you can't, you can't do the dual citizenship. So now technically it's not, well, that's all I can say. I shouldn't incriminate myself. but obviously, there are ways you can work, you know what I'm saying? But that's the thing. That's another thing I want to say. There's this weird human need to tell people when you're doing dumb shit. Well, tell me when you're doing something wrong. So I shouldn't incriminate myself. I'll put it that way. But you know what I'm saying? Now I do technically want to make video games. That would be a cool way to make money. But so he says, isn't Zambia heavily influenced by the West? Now, okay, so Zambia as influenced by the West. Here's the thing. Zambia is a country. You know what I mean? So it depends on what city you go to. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, I don't know what city you are in, Nubarian. I don't know what country you're in, Nubarian. But like, when I was in America, New York City was not too different from Los Angeles, maybe. I don't know. I didn't really go to Los Angeles. Or not too different from Atlanta, although it was. But it was very different from Auburn. Very different from Hempstead. Very different from Albany, kind of, a little bit. Very different from, let's just make up some shit, Las Vegas or something. I don't know. But the point is, when you go to another country, right, they have many cities. Okay? And so if you go to the port city, right, the port city is where the Europeans set up their colonies. Okay? Europeans set up colonies in certain port cities so that they could take resources and send them back to their homeland. And a lot of black people start living in those port cities. Okay? And then they cry foul, like my brother Bonner was talking about. Oh man, the way how they force us into the city. They ain't forced into the city. You just went to the city, right? But the point is that if you are in the city, you are definitely going to be more westernized because you're sitting up inside of a European colony or a former European colony. But if you are not in the port city, then you might not necessarily be as colonized. Now, obviously, you still might have proximity and communication with the city, with the port city, right? And there might be that little tangential westernization. But, you know, like, yeah, if when you go to these countries, you're going to realize there's just so much damn land that if you really wasn't on that Western stuff, you could live in a nice, safe community and you could have all the shit you ever wanted pretty damn good. You know? Like, what I want to say is this. He says, give me your PayPal. I don't got no PayPal, man. I can't trust PayPal. What I could say is this, though. The house I'm living in right now. So I got three. I know I'm a little bit tangent. My fault, family. But I got three large expenses in my life. Okay? The largest is this house. The second is the solar panels on top of this house. And the third is my gaming computer. I don't use my gaming computer anymore, right? But these solar panels, they're not that good. I need a little more because like Juana's saying, if y'all were to hit up my Cash App, maybe I could get some better solar panels. But the whole thing is this, and I mean, look, and obviously, I wouldn't even encourage that, real talk, because I had to get this solar panel from some stupid, some Indian. So it ain't really like I wouldn't even do that. I wouldn't even give if a motherfucker was gonna give it to India. But the solar panels help. But what I'm saying is this: I haven't been going outside that often because I kind of want to get my programming life together. Because like I said, I can't work in this country, so it's like I kind of want to finish some programming work and all that kind of stuff. And y'all see my book sales. I can't write another book. I can't justify writing another book if I put so much energy into Uangalifu and I only got $100 for the whole year. You know what I mean? So I can't do that. Now, granted, maybe I should write fiction or whatever, but I'm gonna leave that alone. What I'm gonna say is this: since I don't leave my house, you could turn on your solar. Okay, don't gotta leave. You got unlimited energy. Okay, you got your water filter. You set up the water so that the water goes in the tank when it needs to go in the tank. Okay? Now, the city is unreliable with providing water, but you can get a big-ass tank that could last you a week or 2 weeks. Or no, like maybe a week. Last you a week, and then you just keep charging it, refilling it when you need to. Basically, you could live pretty damn cheap. Like, I would say this. You could live $40 a month. No. Maybe a little more. $100 a month in Africa. And that would include high-speed, unlimited internet. Like, your internet bill would be your most expensive bill. Or not just that. Real talk, your food might be more expensive. So maybe you would live $200, $300 a month, including food, rent, water, electricity. Because, electricity is going to be virtually free, right? And electricity was already cheap. But my point is that you could, so when you talk about, hey, Zambia influenced by the West, if you go find a Zambian home, you could get one pretty cheap, very, very cheap, right? In some remote place, put up the solar panels, connect the water pipes, right? Connect to the local internet if there's local internet. If not, you can do the satellite stuff, whatever. But if you do that shit, you don't gotta worry about no damn white man. Like I told you, I don't work in this country. That means that there's no white man telling me shit. There's no black man telling me shit. Nobody tells me shit. Nobody tells me shit. Like I said, I don't even be going outside like that. Police don't be telling me shit. You understand? Like if you talking about, y'all remember the Roots. When you talk about in Roots, Chicken George visited this woman, and this woman, he was like, look, I gotta leave, I gotta dip. And she's like, it's okay, I'm sleeping with a free man. That's what my wife does every day. She sleeps with a free man. You know what I mean? Like you could have freedom easy. Like you could have freedom easy. Now it's going to cost you, obviously, but I'm telling you the truth, man. It's just not that expensive. Like my solar panel, like one of the reasons why my solar is not that, I probably spent like for the batteries. I got batteries. I got panels. I got an inverter. I got things to hold up the panels. all that kind of stuff. That might have cost me $1,300. Okay? Now, I'm not going to tell you that's the most efficient system. I feel like maybe it needs a proper look at by another electrician, possibly. But what I'm going to tell you is that just for $1,300, you get unlimited internet for the rest of your damn life. Now, not really. Again, batteries can expire. So, not really. But my point is, you like you don't got to answer to nobody. Okay? You don't have to answer to anybody. Sorry, so let me see something. She says, Jax, Florida. Oh, Nubarian's from Jackson, Florida. Yeah, so Florida, yeah, I wouldn't mess with Florida at all. So he says, Nubarian says, so should we only come to Africa to run a business or be a tourist? Come to Africa to run a business or be a tourist. So what I want to say is, no, of course, look, in life, you should have a business. Period. You know what I mean? Businesses, like everybody should have a business. I don't know. I told y'all, I wrote this book right here. Make sure y'all check it out. Uangalifu. I think it's my best work. Okay? But what I'm going to tell you from Uangalifu is that, you know, you just being, like for instance, you go to my neighborhood. There are these dudes sitting outside, you know, selling basic trinkets, you know, like, you know, soda, toilet paper, toothbrushes, you know, all that kind of stuff. They don't manufacture that stuff, but they just sell it. And it's okay because what happens is that you are now valued in the community. You're a valuable individual in the community. When you have a business, you are valuable. You know, you bring value. Like half of business is just bringing value to a community. Like I said, I opened up this restaurant. People now, you know, my wife is telling me that, you know, they do most of their sales after 10 o'clock, you know, 11 o'clock. And she's like, a lot of people that are buying these prostitutes. But you bringing value to the prostitutes. They need to eat too. They need to get their energy too. but the point is that that's what you do from a business. Like when you do business, so it's like, yeah, absolutely. If you are going to another country, you should you should bring value to the community. You know, it's harder for me to do it because, you know, shout out to Marcus Garvey. He said a lot of black folk were no good in Africa, in America, and they're going to be no good in Africa. Unfortunately, one of the things that we don't really pick up on is that a lot of us are no good. Because the white man does so much for us, right? We not really bringing value to our communities. You know, so I thought, oh yeah, well, if I write these books, I'm going to bring value. But y'all see the numbers. I'm not bringing no damn value, man. Yeah, if I'm selling $177 for the year, it's not really that valuable. You know, y'all can miss me. You know what I'm saying? And I'm okay with that, man. I'm okay with that. Like, I realize, like, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. You know, and so like, here in Africa, here's the thing. Now, can I even sell books here in Africa? No, because they don't read English. They read Swahili. You see what I'm saying? They don't read English. So that's another one of my problems, because the one of the big skills I did have was, you know, I used to be a pretty damn good writer. Okay, I used to be a pretty damn good writer, but you know, if you write in a language that, you know, you can't sell English books in China. You know what I mean? You can't, you know, of course I'm being, you know, metaphorical, but you know, it is what it is. So let me see these comments. I didn't know I had so many comments. We got Brother Forecast here. Shout out to Brother Forecast. But he says, Buana says, solar panels expensive, really? No, I'm just saying it's like $1,300, you know? I mean, it ain't cheap, but it's not, you know, I mean, for unlimited energy. Now, I want to point out to you guys, energy was really cheap in this country. Okay, so you could spend, I want to say like $10 for the. Well, man, is it $10? No, how much did I used to spend? Maybe it was like $5 for the week for your electric bill. You know, so in America, you ain't gonna do no $5 for the week. Okay. I remember it's like some people in America complain about $500, $500 a month for their electricity. I think I might have been paying like $150, but even so, like $5 for electricity. So it's like you didn't have to go and get yourself a solar panel. The only thing is that sometimes the power would cut out, and because the power would cut out, you wanted to have a backup battery system, but I didn't just want to have a battery system I charged on the local company, the local power company. So instead, I got a battery system I charged on solar. That's it. A lot of questions. Bonner says $100 a month. Really? Wow. $200 a month. Crazy. Yeah, it's cheap, man. Life is cheap. Forecaster here said, yo, what's up? He says, how stable is internet connection? So it's really up to you, but basically I'm on the internet connection right now. And it's probably better than a lot of the internet you see in America. This one is probably the most expensive bill we have. And I would say it's about $35 a month, so it's about American prices, kind of. America, you probably spend $50 a month, but that's pretty much it. It's like $35 a month. Now, one of the problems is that you're in the middle of Africa, so if you're trying to game, like I got this video game, Tenkaichi or something like that, I don't know. You can't play with anybody, you know what I'm saying? Because nobody is in Africa is playing it. But if you're not trying to do no gaming, like whatever, you got, it's pretty good. It's decent enough, and you can get faster. I was kind of going on the cheap side. You could get faster. Balthazar, okay, shout out to Balthazar. He says it was 98 degrees out in the shade. Yeah, it's also pretty hot here in Africa. I think he's rapping. It says 10,000 soldiers on parade. Okay. Yeah, but Balthazar, it's a cat photo. So, Balthazar, yeah. It's pretty hot though here in Africa, and like you can get around that. It's just it's up to you. Prostitutes eat Snickers too. LOL. Yeah. Can you offer to write for a newspaper in Tanzania? So again, you can't work in this country. Okay, so you don't want to. Like, you don't want to do it. Like, here's the thing, man. Like I said about rights and privileges. If you decide to go writing in Tanzania, that's fine. If somebody doesn't pay you and you dispute it in the court will say, well, what the fuck are you working here for? You get what I'm saying? Like, you got to remember that the one of the reasons why you can, one of your securities is the court system. So you got to be on the right side of the law. The right side of the law is that, if you want to write for a newspaper, pay the fine. Pay the fee to work. Now the fee to work is, I want to say $4,000. $4,000 US. So that's 3 solar panel systems. Okay? I'm a little bit too cheap to be put in 3, and again, you don't know how much these newspapers are paying. Now, if you had it absolutely guaranteed that the newspapers were paying you, buco bucks, then sure, take that offer. But me personally, I don't even want to work for nobody. You know what I mean? Like honestly, I like being free. I ain't gonna hold y'all. So he says they do it in America, in all parts of so on and so forth. And they shall never open this door until you rise in your power and demand that they open or break it down by your organized power, courage, or prowess. So again, this is not going to happen, right? So he says, not that it's not going to happen, but again, this is why I said, you want to be somewhere where you are the majority. But even so, it's like you also have to say to yourself, look, you're always going to be a citizen of a nation. So it really comes down to what kind of nation do you want to be a citizen in? You get what I'm saying? Like, you're always either going to be a citizen or not going to be a citizen. Like here in Tanzania, I'm not a citizen. But another thing about Tanzania is that, like I said, my wife is a citizen. So if my wife wants to open up a business, she can just do it. The business licenses are cheap. If necessary, there's a lot of laxness when it comes to businesses in Tanzania. Now, I can't do it, and that's okay, because again, if you could find somebody that you trust, and you already know she just came in the room, and so she's probably listening, right? But but if you can find somebody that you could trust, and that's actually a hard part. But if you can find somebody you could trust, guess what? You don't even have to have these quote unquote rights and privileges. You see what I'm saying? So this is, and you do it as short. Oh, sorry. Let me look at the comments. Barna says 4,000 USD. Hell nah. Might as well make your own money via the internet. This guy gets it. Exactly. This guy gets it. Says they do it in America and all parts of the world, especially in Mother Africa. And they shall never open this door until you rise to your because remember, all right, you got to remember about the work thing though. A lot of white people would come to this country to do some real work. Okay, so Tanzania makes it so that you can't own anything except for things in I think mining and energy. I think maybe energy, right? So if you are coming to this country, you could own shit in mining. Okay? And so that's what the law is really about. It's like, okay, you come in here to do some mining, right? Well, whoever is coming here to work for you, right, has to pay 4,000 US dollars. So that could be your incentive to hire locals, okay? Or that could be your incentive, or basically the government can profit from whatever profit you can extract from them. You get what I'm saying? But pretty much it's like if you don't have those kind of things, the government doesn't profit from you going over to their country and profiting. You get what I'm saying? Like, remember, the state is fundamentally an economic unit. Okay? A nation is fundamentally an economic unit. But a nation might not be able to do everything. You know, because if you're like a multi-millionaire in America, right, you can go to Africa and set up some mining operation. You know, you could do that pretty easily. Okay? But the government might not be able to do that. Not to say the government doesn't have multi-millions, but maybe it doesn't have that in the budget for this year at this moment. You see what I'm saying? So it's really complicated, but it's not that complicated. Since they do it in America and all parts of whatever, I don't know why I did that click. They shall open this door until you rise in power and demand that they open or break it down by your organized power, courage, or prowess. So again, he says, and you can do it as sure as there is a God in heaven, as sure as the elements exist, as sure as the stars shine and twinkle. So again, it's that mysticism. He says, man's mind is the maker of his own world. This is, imagination, right? And you can create your opportunities without depending upon other men to do it for you. Now, again, you're in a nation, and there are consequences for breaking laws, whether you know it or not. Okay? And other men are writing laws unless you yourself are writing laws with other men. And if you're not writing laws with other men, you have to say to yourself, well, what men are writing laws that I can agree with? What men are writing laws that I could live with? Like, for instance, right now, nobody comes into my house. Okay? But actually, the other day, some guy knocks on our gate, and is like, I just got elected. I just got elected recently in the recent election. And what I'm going to tell you is that you need to cut your grass. Because I can't remember if he said it was like a fire hazard or something like that. But basically, this man comes along and says, you need to cut your grass. And if you don't cut your grass, we're going to fine you and cut your grass for you. Okay? Because he just got elected. So he could do whatever law he wants. He has the backing of the state. That's the real world. And if I got elected, which I probably can't, but if I got elected, I could go to anybody's house and tell them, look, cut your lawn, or do this, or do that, or your building can't be this high because it's a fire hazard. Whatever. I can do whatever I fucking want. That's how the world is. And this is what the white man is doing to us, if we live with him. So he says, and so the Universal Negro Improvement Association, through its gigantic program to be supported by $600 million to be raised in 10 years, is determined that all other opportunities closed to Negroes before be open now, and we shall enter in because we realize that we are men, creatures of God, and masters of our sphere. So that's pretty much all I can say at this point. If anybody has any other questions, let me know. Otherwise, I obviously can dip. But as far as what Bon is saying about 4,000 US dollars, yeah, so that's why I don't. Let me actually see if I can pull up the page. But that's why I don't mess with. Yeah, I know my keyboard is loud. They say that's why I don't mess with a lot of this stuff. And like I said, it's like, you know, you don't have to push back on it. You don't have to demand. You don't have to say, well, I'm an African and therefore blah 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 blah. Right? Okay, so I'm looking up this thing. Some people, this one is saying 1,000 US dollars. I don't know why, but it is. But I remember vaguely. There's another one right here. It says $1,600. I'm not showing you guys yet because I want to just pull up the page. Yeah, let me see. All right, so let me pull this up for you guys. But basically, yeah, it's no joke. And like I said, when you overstay your visa, Brother Bakari says link, please. Hold on a second. Right here, when you overstay your visa, right? That's what happens. So this is a page off of Tanzanian High Commission, Republic of Tanzania, Nairobi, Kenya. So maybe this is Kenya. I don't know. But you look at it. It says, look, there's a fee of US $1,600 for Class A, blah, 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 blah. Right? You have Class B, residence permit, $600 US. So I don't know if this might be, I can't tell if this is Tanzania or thing. Replacement, US $600 for the replacement. Right here it says residence permit for large capital investors in companies, industries, fishing, mineral, transportation, $2,000 on first issue and renewal, $1,500 for first issue and renewal, $500 naturalization. There you go. If you want to get naturalization, $5,000, a fee of $1,500, and plus $3,500. So you have this, and this is what's important too. Like I said, one of the scams here, if you will, is that everything is in US dollars, as opposed to Tanzanian shillings. So when you're in Tanzania, it's pretty damn hard to get a hold of Tanzanian shillings, US dollars. You get what I'm saying? So you have to now go to somebody, and they'll either convert however they want to convert your shillings to US dollars, or these people will do their own conversion. So while, when you Google it, you might say, okay, well, that's 20 million Tanzanian shillings or something like that. Oh, no, 11 million Tanzanian shillings, let's say, right? They're going to say, give me 14 million. And you can't do shit. You get what I'm saying? You can't do shit because it's perfectly reasonable. But actually, I was actually just trying to dip. Brother McCarthy says I don't need to lick. Oh wait, this is BBN Black Business Network. Yeah, all right. So I guess there's no other questions though. So all right, I guess I'll hit out. But I appreciate everybody for stopping by. I didn't know there was 9 people. That's what's up. So let me just shout out IC3 Reparations Nation again. But if y'all don't know, that's Mr. Tekken himself. So a lot of y'all don't know this, but there's this video game called Tekken, right? And there was this black Brazilian capoeira guy who, for a lot of us who liked video games or what have you, that was like one of our first representations of a black man or even a black martial arts in a video game. And so, Mr. IC3, he was in Konami at the time, and he says that he proposed that that particular fighting style and that particular combatant. So, shout out to that, because that's another thing that, that's one of the things that we can do to contribute to our people. BBN says he was the best at Tekken. I don't know if he was the best, man, but I remember I used to think I was pretty good at Super Smash Brothers. Man, did I get my ass kicked by my friend's cousin. I don't know what the fuck that was about. Like, I don't know what that dude was on, man, but yeah. he just like, I was pretty good. I was like, I was handling business, but this dude was just dodging and shit. I was embarrassed, man. I don't like that much. I don't like that dude to this day. Anyway, so I appreciate Venus for coming through. I haven't really seen Venus before, but I appreciate the comments that Venus left. We got Nubarian. I haven't really heard from Nubarian before, but I also appreciate a lot of the comments from Nubarian. Pretty cool. Buana, I know Buana. Yesterday he was on Shoot the Breeze, and he was saying some deep stuff. I like the whole if you're a donkey. No, if you see a donkey, you ride him. Forecast, shout out to Forecast. Everybody know Forecast is on that time. You already know. Balthazar, I think Balthazar was rhyming. I don't know what was going on, but I appreciate the bar. It was 98 degrees out in the shade. 10,000 soldiers on parade. I appreciate it. And of course, BBN, Black Business Network. Yeah, if y'all don't know, that used to be Brother Bakari. So shout out to everybody who came through. And other than that, appreciate everybody. And I'll just tell y'all let me show y'all my sales again. Let me show y'all my sales again so that, somebody gets moved. Because that's another thing, too. It's like, you don't got to send me a PayPal. You could just buy this book. And then come next year, I could be like, damn, y'all saw I sold $1,000 royalty, Or shit, if I had like $20,000 royalty, oh, man. Shit, the government be taxing me. But anyway, like, again, I ain't mad at this too much, man. Because it's like, it is what it is, right? But yeah, if you want to support, just get yourself a copy of Uangalifu. If you already have a copy, you can give away a copy. That's the greatest support that I could have, because I guess the ancient Egyptians said, the writer, the author is an immortal. Okay, because even after they die, after they perish, their words could still live on. Like, say what you will, we were reading Marcus Garvey like he was somebody we know. We don't know this man. Our grandparents didn't know this man. You know what I mean? Like he died. But because he, as he put it, a reading man is a ready man, but a writing man is exact, right? And because he put his words into print, or because his wife put his words into print, right? We could still see him. So, obviously there's no such thing as immortality. Obviously it's bordering on the mysticism, right? But if you want to support, you know what I mean? Put out the Uangalifu. Obviously, I don't really care when I'm dead whether or not somebody's reading my books. But like, I don't really care because I'm dead. But I kind of wrote it because I believed it could be helpful to the cause of the African race. So, in so much as the African race is so important to me, definitely if you want to support, hit me up. Because like I said, if you just put in cash in my pocket, I might just get me some more solar panels. I ain't going to hold you. These solar panels are useful as fuck. And I might just have to get it from a foreigner, because unfortunately the foreigners are doing it. So it's like, whatever. But these books, even if I take this little profit and put it into solar panels, these books at least put some ideas out in the stratosphere that could benefit our people. So that's my little commercial. But I was just kind of stalling to see if anybody had another comment. Nobody does. So I'll stop stalling, you guys. Appreciate y'all. Oh, there's some more comments. BBN says Buana is never dead. Now I like this. I like what you said about. He said it was the people about Bahamas, right? Who said it's like a proverb from the Bahamas. They were saying if you see a donkey, ride him. So basically, it's like what I said with Garvey. It's like, people are going to prey on you, regardless. If you become a donkey, people will prey on you. You know, Nubarian says, what about those FBA guys? What about them? I mean, FBA people are, like again, like their situation is, again, the situation of Americans is unique. You know, like if you have no plans on leaving America, you know, you're technically gonna go down with the ship. You know what I mean? Like, and so now if you're going down with the ship, you might, I don't know, you might feel it's like you might be like, let me talk to the captain. You know what I'm saying? Like if you feel like you have some good ideas while the ship is going down, you might think, let me go talk to the captain. The problem is that the captain doesn't want to hear from you. But like that's pretty much it. I don't know. I mean, again, it's a pretty unique circumstance. You know, it's a pretty unique circumstance that, you know, me personally, I would never. I personally do not want a white man as the captain of my ship. That's pretty much it. BBN says only you live forever. Nah, nobody lives forever. But you know, the thing with books is that it brings you closer. But obviously nothing lasts forever. You know? Not even the planet. You know what I mean? So Lero says, I'm late, so I'll catch the rewind, but peace, loved one. Yeah, shout out to Lero. You know, shout out to Lero. She's good people. Well, besides that, all right, fam, I'm gonna hit y'all all up another time and appreciate y'all for coming through. All right, deuces. What? I got 6 hours.